I'm really, really happy to help. Ukrainian community is amazing. We have multiple employees in Ukraine. We have about 8-9 startups that we invested in Ukrainian founders. And I hope we'll see more and more connections with the Ukrainian community.
Let's do.
In the next year or 2 years, the new companies that are not thinking about using AI, utilizing AI to reduce number of employees, to reduce number of software engineers, to automate and like make something really special, those companies without that will lose. So I see that they, the same $500,000 for a US founder versus Ukrainian founder is completely different. Also, I've seen Ukrainian founders being so resilient, they can go on no money at all for a long time. We have a couple companies in our portfolio that had surprised me by surviving multiple months with having zero money in the bank account. I've seen a lot of other companies that would go down in terms of think that they cannot survive, and then they would go up again a few months later. I also see this. Another thing that's very, very interesting is ability to really focus on business while also on the side thinking about charity, thinking about helping their country, thinking about being involved in the restoration efforts and humanitarian efforts.
Wow.
Patrick created back what a fintech trends next. Just a fintech startup or VC side. All of my dizzy every time around that I wanna fight. I wanna know all around fintech which I go. You can find your answers here.
Hi, I know you invested some Ukrainian startups.
Yes.
But I want that you tell us your little story, how you get it from the corporate to VC, and what you motivated around VC.
So I was a software engineer. I always liked tech. I always liked coding computers. I started at Google as a software engineer, and then I decided that I want to go further. I want to go into business. How can I figure out business decisions? How can I work with business leaders while being an engineer at Google, which is very technical, very down to earth? So I found this startup ecosystem, something that really interested me. I think it was back in 2007 when I started to attend first conferences. I actually went to a conference in Kiev back in 2008 just to talk to people about how to use Google ecosystem, because I worked at Google. And I saw a lot of really interesting founders, entrepreneurs that tried to do something new. Back then, it was 15 years ago. And sometime around 2011, 2012, I found out that I could start investing, right? So I had a salary at Google, and I had a lot of good connections and a lot of deal flow in startup ecosystem, especially in Eastern Europe, and started to find companies that I really want to work with and I want to put money in. And one of the first my investments was PandaDoc when I was a first investor, and it was a pre-seed, and it ended up going all the way from pre-seed to unicorn. A couple of years later, I met People.ai, which is a Ukrainian-founded company. Through another Ukrainian, Yaroslav from PetCube, introduced me to Oleg from People.ai. That's how, and I invested as an angel.
What motivated you to invest in Ukrainian co-founders, startups?
So here's the thing, I'm from Belarus originally, and I really understand the ethos of this Eastern European founder, which are very technical focused, that are really bright and smart, but cannot develop a big company in their own market because the markets are very small and there's not enough capacity to sell anything. So they go for bigger market like US. And I find that they are able to build company in a much more financially efficient manner because they can hire people back in their own country. And I can see that they can actually bring really innovative solutions much faster. And People.ai was obviously the example that the solution was very innovative, right? So Oleg was a CEO, was really, really, bright mind compared to a lot of other, even Silicon Valley entrepreneurs.
Yeah, we already recorded Oleg in London. Yeah, very smart. Good investment from your side.
Yeah. I think it was great, and I kept, being involved in the ecosystem. And I saw also that there is not enough VC dollars going into this ecosystem because a large amount of VC money is focused in the US, is on Silicon Valley, is on startups that are actually able to come to Silicon Valley. And a lot of pre-seed startups cannot go to Silicon Valley or US yet. So when in 2021, I decided to start my venture fund and go all the way from engineering to invest in full-time, I focused on this motto that opportunity is not everywhere, but talent is everywhere. How can you take the opportunity that is much more rampant and available in the US and bring it to places where opportunity is not there, but talent is there? Ukraine is one of the places where talent is through the roof, but there's not enough money. And I'm not only talking about like money for business leaders, but even people that are doing great jobs, but not a CEO position. They also don't have enough opportunities. So what I found is that by understanding these founders, I can help them with the pre-seed investment, and I can help them connect them to a US ecosystem, can get them in, can mentor them on how to pitch, can bring them to the right networking opportunities, and then the more money flowing into those companies, and the CEOs would be able to pay the salaries to people back in Ukraine, and this works really well. One of our Geek Ventures companies, New Homes Made, with founders from Lviv that are now in Austin. I met them back in Lviv 2 years ago, and now they have a really large backend team in Ukraine, Lviv and other cities that are great, amazing, can work really hard and can solve difficult problems for US market, while they have growing revenues in US, and they can bring this money from investment and revenues to Ukrainian teams.
Nowadays, your venture capital focus what kind of industries and what ticket you invest?
So we are focused across different industries. We prefer software, B2B, and marketplaces. We also do some deep tech, health tech, and space tech. We start at pre-seed seed with $100,000 to $200,000 as a first investment, and we follow on with up to $2 million.
What trends you see next 2-3 years? What our viewers must to see or look to deeply to understand, maybe to build something, yeah? Because nowadays AI is like milestone, but maybe you'll see in other industries where.
Great question. So first of all, I think AI will continue to be really important, and what I see is that everybody has to have some AI strategy. What we ask every company, what's your AI strategy? In the next year or 2 years, the new companies that are not thinking about using AI, utilizing AI to reduce number of employees, to reduce number of software engineers, to automate and like make something really special, those companies without that will lose. The companies that use it will win. That's one important thing. Second thing that I see, there is more and more interest in doing good, in social impact. And the more companies that can explain how what they're doing is not only making money and has, traction in terms of dollars, but actually makes people happier, makes a life better for our children. That's also better. Here on Web Summit, I've seen so many venture funds that are really asking about like what's the impact and what's the sustainability of the startups. I think that will keep going up.
It's your first venture capital fund, yes? You plan to raise second one, third one in future?
So the way I think about it is that Geek Ventures should be a long-term sustainable venture firm, right? So we have closed first fund of $23 million earlier this year. We are in the middle of deploying it. And of course, we want to keep going. We want to have a Geek Ventures 2, Geek Ventures 3. We want to maybe branch out into multiple funds. So the idea is to keep generating our impact, right? To keep helping immigrants on a higher and higher level, right? So, and in order to do that, we need to get a bigger team. We need to be able to invest in more companies.
Your vision about Ukrainian tech people, what's the kind of things they have, like personalities, and what's the kind of projects they build? In focus, what build other startups from other countries? Do you have some recognition of Ukrainians when you invested and see deck of some of startups?
So I think the biggest difference that I see in Ukrainian founders compared to other founders, that they are much more scrappy, are much more careful with finances, with money, can go longer on the same runway, can also have a better understanding of how not to waste finances. So I see that they, the same $500,000 for a US founder versus Ukrainian founders, completely different. Also, I've seen Ukrainian founders being so resilient, they can go on no money at all for a long time. We have a couple companies in our portfolio that had surprised me by surviving multiple months with having zero money in the bank account. I've seen a lot of other companies that would go down in terms of, think that they cannot survive. And then they would go up again a few months later. I also see this, another thing that's very, very interesting is ability to really focus on business while also on the side thinking about charity, thinking about helping their country, thinking about being involved in the restoration efforts and humanitarian efforts.
Wow. For your ideal portrait of founders or team of founders which you choose to invest?
Ideal founders are people who are really thinking big in terms of their company, in terms of the industry, and also are thinking about hiring people that are smarter than themselves. People who are both very smart, extraordinary, but also humble. They don't want to be the smartest person in the room. They want to involve and hire smarter people, even pay them more, right? So this is like A players kind of ethos is what is important. What is also important is that they understand their market, right? This is where our name Geek Ventures coming from. I love founders that are geeks about their own market, about, if you're doing healthcare, but I wish you have been doing healthcare for 10 years. If you're doing property, I wish you were in real estate for like 10, 15 years. If you are doing finance, you should have been in finance for like 10, 15 years. You really understand it and you're geek about it. You're passionate about it.
The skills.
Yeah. It's knowledge. It's like understanding and also passion. Is that something that really drives you to wake up during the weekends? I want our founders to show me that they're committed to this company for the next 10, 15 years. I want to only invest in a really long-term relationship.
Cool. For your personal vision, what's the main thing in the early stage startup founders must met to grow up?
So, I think one of the important kind of tests for founders to learn how to fundraise and how to sell, right? I see a lot of very smart people who start with understanding what they want to build. They have an idea. They often have a product. And then the biggest learning the first-time founders need to figure out is how to sell the vision to investors, how to sell the vision to employees, how to sell it to customers. And of course, you cannot learn it at your job as an employee somewhere else. So you need to learn it right here while being a CEO. And I think that one of the things that we look at is this founder able to raise? Is this founder able to sell? And one kind of a red flag that we see is that founder kind of wants and doesn't want to raise at the same time. So they come to us and they're like, oh, let's, and then when we say, okay, let's try to build a round, let's have multiple VCs with reasonable valuation, they're like, well, you probably don't need many VCs, maybe we'll have just one VC. And like, okay.
I heard it.
You're not really thinking about learning how to fundraise. You're not thinking about, maybe you're talking to one VC. You should be talking to 50 VCs, right? So like really creating the skill, everybody needs to learn on the job. There's no, MBA for fundraising.
Yeah.
And another thing is being able to sell your vision and think about it and like keep iterating on it. And it should be big. It should be something that the listener could think that this is something that will be 10 years from now. Not something next year, not something like 6 months from now. What is your company going to be like 10 years from now when it will be really, really important business?
I agree with you. Your 3 recommendations for our followers, startups which want to be in a way to build something. The 3 main recommendations from you, from your heart too.
That's really a deep question, right? So first of all, keep finding real problems that your customers, be it businesses or consumers, really have a pain point. Try to make sure that you're solving for pain points. Don't ever settle for some improvement, for some marginal improvements, for something that some people might want to use but not really need it. Always try to find the real big pain point. Until you find customers that say, well, I need it, I need your solution because it's really big pain. Don't stop, keep iterating until you find that pain point. And then when you found the pain point, focus on pain point and then try to develop a solution, even if it's hard. It might be hard to develop a solution, it might be hard to sell, but keep going at it. So grit is always welcome in solving for real pain points, but never settle on something small.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And you help our Ukrainian community startups to build.
I'm really, really happy to help. Ukrainian community is amazing. We have multiple employees in Ukraine. We have about 8-9 startups that we invested in Ukrainian founders. And I hope we'll see more and more connections with the Ukrainian community.
Let's do.
Thank you.
How to create a bug, what a fintech trends next. Just a fintech startup or VC side. All my dizzy every time. Around that I wanna fight, I wanna know. All around fintech which I go, you can find your answers here.